There's a lot more going on in this game than meets the eye. The mansion changes its layout constantly. Every time you open a door, you're presented with a choice of one of 3 rooms that you can basically conjure. It's a roguelike in the sense that you have a limited amount of steps that you can take each day.
A rogue game, a strategy game, maybe a deck builder game with the concepts of something like Myst or Outer Wilds, maybe for a more recent touchstone.
Hey everybody, welcome to New Gameplay Today. My name is Marcus Stewart. I am joined by not one, but 2 special guests for this look at Blueprints, a brand new puzzle game released by Dagobah Games. First and foremost, I have the hottest freelancer in games and media. You know him from Giant Bomb. He is Jesse Vitelli. Hello!
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm ready to blueprints it up.
Absolutely. We're not going to be blueprinting it up alone because I've also got the other hottest freelancer out there, formed the Axe for the Blood God podcast and also of But Why Though, Eric Van Allen. Hello.
1, 2, 3 princes stand here before you to teach you about this game today. Very excited for this.
Yes, this has been the talk of the game industry, it feels like, this week. I feel like that's safe to say. Blueprints out now. This is a new first-person puzzle roguelike game. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. It is such a weird but interesting blend of genres, and it makes me grateful for this format because I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I feel like this is a game that if you were describing it to me verbally without any sort of video, it would be kind of hard to visualize. But the idea of this game is that you play as this young boy who is invited to this manor, owned by a, presumably like a super rich dude, and you're tasked with reaching the 46th room in this mansion. But the kick is that the mansion changes its layout constantly. You're opening these doors, and every time you open a door, you're presented with a choice of one of 3 rooms that you can basically conjure. And the idea that you're trying to build a path to the end of this blueprint where the 46th room awaits. But the rooms you're given are randomly selected. Some of them are dead ends. Some of them have only a few openings. Some have all of the openings, and you're just basically stitching them together. But there's a lot of secrets and mysteries. Like, it's not just about building a path to try to get to the 46th room. There's a lot more going on in this game than meets the eye, and it's one of the reasons I've been so obsessed with it lately. But I'm excited to hear what you 2 think, because if I'm not mistaken, both of you are not only much further in this game, but you might have already finished it. I'll start with you, Eric. What do you think of Blueprints?
Well, finishing it, quote unquote, is a weird thing to talk about because I think there is seeing the credits of this game and seeing everything that is in this game, and they're kind of 2 different things. I'll say that up front, that like this is a very dense video game. I think the thing that sold me originally on this game when I first saw it was it has a lot of the markings of, if you've ever read the book House of Leaves, it has a lot of that in it. House of Leaves, also a novel about a house that is larger on the inside than it is on the outside, an impossibly surreal house. Also, a lot of the weird stuff about colored words and things like that appear here as well. You see whenever red or blue is talked about in this game, it has like different shading and stuff like that. So that immediately made my neurons fire. And mixing it with a roguish approach to all this, I think at first I was kind of wondering, like, okay, is this just a interesting kind of deck builder run based type game? Is this another Slay the Spire? Is this another Balatro, etc.? I think what this game is trying to marry the ideas of a rogue game, a strategy game, maybe a deck builder game, with the concepts of something like Myst or Outer Wilds, maybe for a more recent touchstone of a mystery that unfolds and plays with perception, with understanding, and with just seeing things around you and beginning to understand the environment, but also how all of those things kind of fold into each other and inform each other. It's a it's a beautifully like rich game that has so much going on inside of it. That's really exciting to just keep going back and keep playing through runs even after like I have rolled credits and I'm still going back and digging around and looking for things.
Yeah, and I guess we established that it's a roguelike in the sense that you have a limited amount of steps that you can take each day.
Mhm.
You can see it up in the upper left-hand corner. And the challenge is that you're trying to reach the end of this room within those number of steps. And when you run out of steps, the run basically ends and the house resets each day. And you also lose all of the items that you've collected. So every day you're starting from scratch. Though there are ways around that we won't get into, but that is the gist of it. Jesse, what do you think of the game?
Yeah, so this game is fascinating for a lot of reasons that Eric has already touched on, but something that really excites me about games like this is you have like your traditional Zelda games, right, where you're going to get the hook shot and that's going to unlock a thing for you to go do, and then you're going to get another item and you're going to move on. But games like this and Outer Wilds and Obra Dinn, Return of the Obra Dinn, are that the main piece of thing that you're carrying with you is knowledge. So even if you started like a fresh save file on this game, you know so much about how certain things work together and how you can bypass certain puzzles by doing X, Y, and Z. And so every time you start a new run, while you're not carrying over a ton of stuff from run to run, you are carrying that like inherent knowledge with you, that foundational knowledge that you've been building from room to room to room. And so every time I start a new run, I'm trying to pull on a new thread. I'm trying to, go down a different rabbit hole and figure things out with the knowledge I've been building from every run. So while you're not traditionally bringing a lot of stuff with you, I do really enjoy the idea of, oh, I'm getting smarter. I'm getting better as a player at this game. I'm learning specific ways to draft rooms to maximize the amount of space I'm using, but also chasing rooms that I want to unlock puzzles in. I know that there's something going on in this room, so I want to try and draft that room, and I want to find ways to draft that room so I can spend more time in it. And things like that, you end up having all of these like micro puzzles along the way to the actual goal. And so solving all of the small things and then learning that a lot of those small things contribute to a bigger picture is the kind of stuff that just has kept me coming back to this game post rolling credits.
Yeah, this game is also deceptively simple at first because we're watching footage of my first run right now, and I remember like before you even know all of the sort of like the density of the puzzles and just what the game's asking of you, I just tried to get to the end. So I was just kind of more focused on just getting the right pieces to fit together and just try to reach the end as quickly as possible. And I came pretty close, and in my mind I'm like, oh, could I do this in one run? Am I just really lucky? But then you kind of like very quickly after I failed was even in that first run kind of realizing what it would actually take to get to the end in terms of like not even just the puzzle solving, but even just knowing how to be kind of like economic with your steps and even just like laying out the room in a smart way where it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to need to double back to revisit rooms at some point. So I guess it makes sense to try to like make rooms reachable from multiple ways if I can help it, so I can kind of not box myself into like a lengthy route where I'm just like exhausting steps needlessly just to be like, oh, I think I can go back here and get this one gem or maybe read this note with this new item that I found. Like even just from like that like more like mechanical standpoint, there's like a lot of strategy that kind of like very quickly reveals itself.
Yeah, I like that in the gameplay we're looking at just now, you had that moment of, oh, there's a room in front of you and you have the possibility you can't put gems down, so you can't spend it on an expensive room, a nice room that might have some features or something like that. So you had to go for a chapel over the storeroom. The storeroom would have given you items but given you a dead end, whereas the chapel gives you more exits, but it's a red room, and red rooms usually have some sort of drawback to them. Let's say like you just dropped another one, the lavatory, that is just a dead end. It's nothing. there's nothing in there.
Yeah,
And
dead end with no resources.
yeah,
most of the time.
I hate that room so much. Every time it pops up I'm like, not again, not the bathroom. But I think one of the cooler things about this game, I initially, like I said, brushed up against the idea of this being a roguelike because I think my initial concern was that unlike a game like Outer Wilds or Myst, where I could kind of go where I wanted to and poke my head into what I wanted to do. I was worried that I was going to be limited by what came up in my draft pool, what came up in my list of rooms, and that I might hit walls of frustration of being, oh, I really want to solve this thing in this room, but I ran out of steps, or I need to draw this certain room. And there are maybe times when that does happen, but what magically happens because of that is you start paying attention to things that you didn't or wouldn't before, because you would tunnel vision on puzzles in other games. And so you have moments of walking through and like this, picking up a note and being like, oh, this is intriguing. This is interesting. And I think one of the cooler things that the Blueprints does is it really ultimately rewards you for trying to explore over trying to go in with a goal-oriented mindset. And I really wound up liking it about that because it forced me to alter my way of thinking. I was talking to Jesse while we were playing pre-release, and Jesse was constantly reminding me of like, hey, just put rooms down, just go do rooms. Stop like
Yeah.
focusing, like micro focusing on these little areas, and just start trying to find more of this house, because there's a lot in this house. There's so much in here.
Yeah.
And there are things you don't even know, like there are things that reveal themselves so late in the like draft pool by the time you get like closer to the end, that you learn to sort of master your opening entrance hall by putting down nooks and parlors and all these rooms that are giving you resources and sort of helping you make that way. And then you get to sort of those last two rows and you start to uncover like more complicated rooms, and it's like, okay, I'm so close to getting to the goal, or what I believe the goal in front of me is, right? And then you start putting down these more complicated rooms and you're like, this room could take me an hour on its own just trying to figure out what's going on in here. And so it's really nice to see sort of the progression. Like as I'm looking at this gameplay footage, everyone kind of has that initial response to a puzzle game where they walk into a room and they try to interact with every single thing in the room, because at this moment everything is important. You don't know what the game is going to tell you is and isn't important yet. So it's really fun to watch everyone's first run of a game where they walk into a room, they walk around the room, they move their camera all around, they're looking at every book, every statue, every painting, every fireplace. And then as the game starts to teach you what is and isn't important, you start to be able to kind of push through those rooms a little bit faster, and then you start making your way to those harder rooms and those more complicated rooms, and then you have to start to learn those, and it starts to like layer on very slowly the like deep complexities of Blueprints.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm coming off of playing The Root Trees Are Dead not too long ago.
Yes,
But it's,
that's a banger.
yeah, it does the same thing that game does so well, where it makes, like, as you accumulate more knowledge, it makes old evidence, like, more interesting. Because one of the worries I had was, like, when I finished my first run, I was like, oh, man, I'm going to have to put these same rooms down again. Am I going to get tired of just going through the same rooms over and over if they have basically the same stuff? But then in one of my later runs, I found an item that basically is like, hey, you should use this item on all the notes you found and like re-inspect them. So you might find something that you wouldn't have been able to without this item. And then I did with like a note that was in that room. So then I had a pretty like big like layout at that point. So I was like, oh man, I have to revisit all these rooms now because I need to read all of those notes.
And you might not have that item in your next run, so you need to do it while you can.
Exactly. I had that same like choice of like I could spend my limited steps to try to just gain knowledge. Like I need to glean everything that could be like hiding on these notes, or I could keep pressing forward and then just having those kind of conversations of like what matters to me right now. And I love just having that choice, and also just knowing that everything you see, like even if it doesn't seem interesting now, eventually you'll find something that makes you want to go like, okay, that thing I thought was useless is actually pretty important. We got here this I'm still trying to figure out. Like I found this very early, and I'm realizing like maybe I found this too early. But
like you are looking at one of the denser mechanics in the game, and you don't even realize it for the longest time. Like the number of ways in which you can manipulate the rooms in this game are honestly kind of amazing, because on its surface this does seem like a very simple game. You are moving, you are picking things up. There's not a lot of methods for interaction outside of walking and poking, but the degree to which Dogi Bomb, the developer, like does incredible things with what you can do in this world and how you can interact with that stuff, and also how these rooms can play off of each other. Some of the ones you're pulling up already, like Nursery, end up being really conceptually cool, really interesting, where you can kind of develop a build almost, and then you end up in this sort of place where you're doing a like, I don't know, like you're crafting a shape, a form, the way that you would if you were playing Slay the Spire or The Bazaar or one of those build focused games where you're like, oh, I'm trying to do this stuff. So maybe you get a nursery very early on and you say, okay, I want to get a bunch of steps. I can build a bunch of bedrooms now to kind of rack up the steps over time. Or maybe you're flush with jewels and you want to go for some of the more expensive rooms that pop up in the pool. You say like, I'm pooling all this stuff because I want to try and get a very expensive jewel room, one that costs like 2 or 3. There's some really cool stuff you could get into with the synergies and the combos here that do scratch that roguelike itch.
Yeah, and you eventually find your build, right? Like I have a pretty specific build I go for most runs now, and that's solely because it's a build that lets me set up for doing what I want to do later down the line. And so I've learned the synergies that I think work well for like what my current goals are in blueprints. And by setting those up early in the first couple of rows, it gives me the freedom to do what I want to do later without having to worry about step counts, gem counts, key counts, whatever resource it is that you're constantly sort of lacking. And the nice thing is every run it kind of seems a little different. So some runs I have 20 keys, and some runs I have 0 gems, and then some runs it'll flip, or some runs I have 100 gold that I don't know what to do with. And the game is really good about giving you that variety, but also kind of giving you the control to fix the thing that you think you're lacking and try to sort of keep a good balance across your run.
It's also one of those games that's, as evidenced by this conversation, because I'm really loving hearing you guys talk about it because they're so much deeper. But just like talking with anyone else playing this game, they're gonna have a completely different story, because just the order in which you find things and learn things it's just going to vary so much. Like in my second run, I just happened upon an incredibly valuable sort of like resource that basically kind of plainly explained pretty vital things, that some of which I didn't know about or just barely had a grasp on because I just had not played enough. And then that I felt like that I had saved maybe 10 runs worth of just stumbling around just by happening upon this one resource. I was like, oh my god, like how long did it take other people to find this, because this is like huge. It's like I just love having that I just happened to find this, and I could see just like in an alternate reality just not knowing half of the things that this particular thing told me for maybe like several hours, depending on just when the game decides to feed it to you. So yeah, it's something that I'm really looking forward to just talking to more people about, just like, hey, when did you solve this, or how much of this did you solve, or even just the idea of like hearing you talk about builds, Jesse, has kind of blown my mind, because I think I've only just started to scratch the surface of that being a thing that I could do. So now that's kind of like I'm wrapping my mind around that. Like, oh man, could I just do a bunch of red rooms or blue rooms or whatever rooms? And like, is that a good idea? What will come of that? But yeah, it's are we gonna say?
I was gonna say one thing. I've seen some concern from people who see this game and obviously see like the incredible praise it's getting, which it's already, I think, now the highest currently reviewed game of the year if you go by aggregate sites and things like that. And I don't want to feed into hyperbole in that way, but I've seen like some people kind of respond to that and be like, oh, well, I'm not a puzzle person, or I get frustrated, or I get stuck easily. I think that's a completely valid response. I know plenty of people who have bounced off of stuff like Outer Wilds and games like that because they just don't always gel with the need to discover, the need to find things, and the need to kind of propel yourself forward on a lot of this stuff and to deal with the frustration. But what I will say is that I think Blueprints separates itself pretty well from a lot of other games by honestly giving you a lot of the answers you need in pretty like blatant ways at multiple times. I don't want to spoil
Yeah.
anything, but there are at least, I think, most of the tools you will need to at least see the credits roll in this game are in some cases just outright told to you once you explore enough, once you get far enough, once you like buy into this game enough and spend time in it, you will have the answers basically handed to you. And all of the deeper stuff, it reminds me of Animal Well in that way, where beating Animal Well, I think, is a very accomplishable task that people can do. And then if you want to start digging into the extra stuff in Animal Well, which is kind of the like broader aspect of the game, then you're going to start dealing with some of the deeper puzzles and have to do some larger things and extrapolate a bit further. But I think like completing this game is a much more accomplishable task than I think some people are worried it will be. I would absolutely stress that this is worth trying if the concept of it appeals to you, but you're still a little bit scared of whether you'll be able to get through it or not.
Yeah, this is also a really great game to play with friends. So if maybe you're not a big puzzle person, but you have a friend who is, like, whether it's watching them maybe play it or whatever, like it's a really good communal activity because the act of discovering, like, it has been so much fun to talk to Eric throughout a lot of this process and have somebody to bounce ideas off of or just sort of swap stories. Like, I think a really good sort of point that Eric was making is I started this game a handful of hours ahead of Eric, and Eric and I beat the game 20 minutes apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we both took radically different routes to get there, but we both ended up at the same point. And it was like, Eric told me that he had rolled credits, and then I was in the process of doing that. And I didn't even realize I was in the process of doing that until I was, like, in it. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I did it too. That's so funny. And we both talked about sort of our journey through it. And I think that's a really something that's special about Blueprints and games like Outer Wilds, where you only kind of get to experience it once. Because once you've experienced it, you sort of know how it works. But then you get to watch other people experience it, or you get to talk to other people who are currently experiencing it. And it creates this really nice sense of, you know, communal discussion around the game and getting to sort of re-experience it a little bit with, you know, your friends or family or strangers on Twitch.
Yeah, I am looking forward to talking about it more. I've got a long way to go, but I think about this game all the time, and I'm excited to spend more time with it and reach the promised land that you guys have and graduate from being a Blue Prince to a Blue King, as you guys are. But yeah, everybody, that is Blueprints. It is available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as PC. Give it a look. It is definitely one of the best games of the year so far, and definitely one of the most creative games of the year so far. But thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future episodes of new gameplay today, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you guys for joining me.